Are you a parent wondering if you're doing right by your kids?
A therapist seeking real-world applications for working with children and their families?
A teacher trying to navigate educating the whole child in today's world?
Then this is the podcast for you.
Hey guys, it's Brigid
And Jenna.
the teacher.
And the therapist.
Hey.
What is up? Episode 20. I cannot believe it.
20.
I literally can't believe we made it 20 episodes.
Let's have a party if we get to like 100.
Okay.
There's no way.
A party at 100. I'll do that.
All right.
I'll get balloons. Like the 100.
We'll take pictures.
We'll do that.
Put them on our Insta.
At Teacher and Therapist Pod. Follow us.
That's right. Follow.
So, because it's our big episode,
Yeah. What are we talking about
We
for episode 20?
are going to be asking the question.
What's the question?
Drum roll, please. Does my kid need counseling?
Ooh, does my kid
Does
need
my-
counseling?
And I mean, first of all, obviously I'm a therapist. I work a lot with kids and families. I'm biased. I think that not necessarily most or all children, but I think all people in general can benefit from counseling at some point for some reason because
Right.
it's so widespread.
Mhm.
And like, obviously, different therapists specialize in different things. You might need things at different like stages and
Right.
it's just going to be different. So I don't think that there's anybody that like sometime in their lifetime, it would be like, there's no reason. Like if you want to go to therapy to work on XYZ, you can. That's
Is-
a good reason to go.
Is therapy ever going to be harmful?
If it's unethical,
Okay.
if it's like, therapy, good therapy, I don't think would
Should never be harmful. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mhm. Yeah. If it's unethical or if it's like a bad fit or they're not following like a protocol, especially if you're getting into more like some of the more like manualized or
Mhm.
specific protocols,
But in general,
But-
counseling should always be a pro.
it should be a pro.
Okay.
So, but there's a lot of stigma, right? Especially with kids, I think, of like
Mhm.
parents take that on of like, I failed in some way.
Right.
If my kid, so like quote unquote needs counseling, I think
Right.
that's like, oh, you need this.
Okay.
So yeah, the question of like, does my kid need counseling? It might be beneficial to you, to the
Right.
family, to the child, you know,
Okay.
but anyway.
All right. I like it. Also, I'm having trouble focusing on this episode because your hair looks so good today.
Oh, thank you.
We're
My
going to have
gosh,
to
wow.
snap a picture and post it because your hair's looking,
We're not going to.
it's looking good. You got the curls.
Thanks so much, but we're not posting
Uh,
a picture.
I'll just take a sneaky shot when she's not looking.
She doesn't know how to post on Instagram.
So true. I barely know how to open Instagram. It's because I'm a millennial. I
An
do
older
Facebook.
millennial.
I'm so old, you guys.
She's really old.
So old.
She's 35.
All right, Jenna. How do we know if our kids need counseling?
Yeah. Here's the golden rule. And I've talked about this before when we talked about like anxiety and kids and
Mhm,
things like that.
mhm, mhm.
The thing is it distressing? Is it impacting your life? So whatever it is
Mhm.
it detrimental to you, to your family, to your child, to their education? Like I've referenced this before, and the DSM has its pros and cons. That's the book that therapists, mental health professionals diagnose from. It in every single diagnosis, it says the last criteria is negatively impacts personal, occupational, or social life.
Okay.
So is it preventing you from getting the education or once you're not a child, work,
School
occupation?
yeah.
From doing that effectively? Is it affecting you socially, which could mean the family?
Mhm.
It's, disrupting your family dynamics, your relationships in some way, friends, family, whatever. Or you yourself personally. I can't get out of bed. I can't function. I can't get my basic needs met or like take care of myself at an age that I should be able
Right.
to do so. So if it is affecting you, if it is negatively affecting you, if it is detrimental, then
All right.
counseling could be helpful.
Could be helpful.
Could be.
So it's worth considering.
Yeah.
So some things we might want to look for maybe are like aggressive behaviors,
Mm-hmm.
lashing out,
Yeah.
sensitivity,
Mm-hmm.
changes of behavior.
Changes one way or the other.
Yes.
They go from really outgoing and like bubbly to like really, really withdrawn or vice versa.
Mhm.
That's actually, I think a lot of times parents, teachers, whomever, family sees that like, oh my gosh, she's really come out of a shell. This is really great.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that is natural that like kids might kind of grow out of shyness. They might, whatever. If they are like really sullen and very withdrawn, very quiet, and then all of a sudden very bubbly.
A drastic.
That's, that is something that we actually want to be like mindful.
A sudden and drastic change, definitely.
That can also be a warning sign.
Or changes in grades. If your typical A student is now getting D's, that might be a sign that there's something going on for sure. And there's also like those developmental standards to look out for too. If your child is not meeting those developmental standards, there might be multiple therapies that they could need.
Sure.
Maybe a speech therapy, an occupational therapy.
Benefit from.
Or maybe a counseling. So, yeah.
Absolutely. And I'll add to that if there's any regression, which again, there could be reasons for that. We see regression when another child comes into the home.
Right.
We see regression for, various reasons.
Right.
But all of those things could potentially be helpful with counseling of like if they're needing to adjust, they've been an only child for 5 years and now a foster child comes or a baby is born or you adopt another child or cousins come to live with you, like extended family.
There can be lots of changes.
Yeah, if there's changes, then that's something that the child could benefit from processing.
A lot of the time changes are hard for us as an adult.
Yeah.
So changes to a child's life can be a big trigger and a big reason that they could need to seek out some counseling.
Absolutely. We have like a whole slew of diagnoses just for that.
Yeah, perfect. It's like the mental health professionals know that change can be triggering to individuals.
It can cause, depression, anxiety, behavioral changes or, mixed.
Mixed. Love it. All right. So we're going to run through some hypothetical scenarios.
Ooh. Okay.
I have these hypothetical scenarios that our lawyers would like you to know that any similarities to real life people, places, events is strictly coincidental.
Okay. Not based on real people.
This is not based on real life.
Okay. Cool.
These are scenarios that I've come up with, bits and pieces of stories that I have heard, seen, been part of, lived through, etc.
Okay.
I'm going to present these to you.
Okay. I haven't read these. No, I don't know these.
You're going to tell me.
Okay. Does the kid need therapy?
Does this child need therapy?
Okay, this is fun.
This is a parent asking you, what do I do?
What do I do
with this child?
Oh my gosh, I hope I know the answer.
I hope you do too. All right, here we go.
Okay.
First one. My child is 5 years old.
Okay.
My child has a hard time when I drop her off at school. She cries. She clings to me. Her teacher says she's fine all day long, but I'm worried that she's too clingy. I'm worried that she's just too clingy. She's got separation anxiety. Okay. Does she need therapy?
Okay. My answer to that, parent, would on face value, obviously all of these are going to be nuanced and individual. My initial reaction is no. That would still be within the realm of what would be developmentally appropriate.
Okay.
Follow-up questions I would ask is like, how long is the separation taking or lasting? Like, is it like, yeah, I'm at the classroom door for 2 hours, but then she's fine.
Right.
Or is it like, yep, she's kind of tearful at drop off, but she says bye and goes with her teacher. And then I go to work and I come back and it's all fine and dandy. 5 is like when, you're kind of maybe starting to exit. So I would say as long as it's not taking super long at separation and follow up in a year. So like that, if at 6 at first grade, by kindergarten, first grade, if we're still having like difficulty, that might be a time to consider.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I like that. All right. Here's the next one.
Okay.
My child is 7.
7.
My child has recently started sleeping in my bed every night when they previously had not since he was about 5 years old.
Okay.
He also has started having accidents every night, but he was potty trained when he was 3. What do I do?
Yeah. I would say counseling could be helpful.
Okay.
Follow-up questions I would ask is like if there had been any changes.
Oh, well, Dad and I just got divorced.
Oh, okay. Well, then, I think counseling could be helpful.
Okay.
Yeah, definitely. So, that would be a really good example of the regression. Potty training is a big one that we see. Separation, not wanting to sleep. And again, there could be like a lot of different reasons. I think alarm bells go off in my head whenever, especially with potty training. If somebody regresses in potty training, there's like all kinds of alerts that go off in my head. However, there can be very innocent reasons. Or even like wanting to sleep in your bed. Like, are they their imagination is going wild. Now they're like afraid of monsters. They're old enough to watch a scary movie.
Or their older sibling watched a scary movie that they saw parts of it. Yeah. There are very innocent, benign reasons for this, but
it's worth exploring, especially if, oh, by the way, Dad and I just got divorced.
Right. And I feel like oftentimes that's how it kind of comes up is we're looking at our child and their behavior.
An event.
And we're so focused on them and their behavior and figuring it out that we forget to kind of step back and be like, what is affecting this?
For sure.
And so that's why I kind of didn't give it at the beginning, because it's like we don't always have that information to start.
Yeah, definitely.
We don't always think of it to start.
Right. And I mean, you as a teacher may or may not know that, but you may see differences in the classroom and may or may not know that if something's going on at home, you know?
Or maybe to the parent, maybe you're like, well, we got divorced a year ago, but to the child that could still be affecting them.
They're still processing.
Yeah, so.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, here's the next one.
Okay.
My daughter is 13. She recently had a big fight with her friends at school. And now she's begging me to homeschool her. She cries every day about going to school. She spends all evening on her phone, but it used to be that she was FaceTiming her friends. Now she's just on her phone, not doing anything. Do I just let it blow over? What do I do?
I would say ding, 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 this one could benefit from counseling.
Okay.
Because it sounds like she's kind of isolating and or wanting to. She's wanting to like leave school, curious, what she's doing on her phone, if she's contacting other people, who she's contacting, what she's doing. Or is she like, just watching all of her other her former friends hang out,
And now she's not part of it.
Yeah, and she's feeling really negatively. So I think that child could benefit from therapy, because my take is usually like I like to have like a preventative approach. So I would say bring that 13-year-old in now, and not when you're like, oh man, now she just expressed like thoughts of wanting to hurt herself, or like now she's super depressed.
Right. Let's not let her get that.
Right. Like if it's possible to like get her to come now, where she's still going to school but is hesitant to it, rather than like she's dropped out.
Right. I think a big one for me on this is that she's not FaceTiming her friends. Sure. She's not like, there used to be that friend connection, because like maybe she always kind of spent the evening on her phone in her room, but it used to be talking to her friends, and now it's not.
Yeah.
And now there's something missing. There's a social aspect that's missing and potentially causing harm. Is there bullying going on? Right. Is there, what word am I thinking of? Social media bullying, internet bullying,
cyberbullying.
There it is. I could not think of it. But like you don't, what is going on there?
You might not know. Yeah.
And so just finding out, I think, is better than not.
Definitely the parent like investigating or guardian, the adult in the house, investigating a little bit more. And another kind of caveat that I will give, obviously I'm biased, I'm a therapist. However, I also realize therapy is not always accessible. We are full. I work a lot with kids, and my latest appointment is 5:00, and that's only twice a week. And so I know that it's hard to get in. You need medical insurance and or enough money to pay out of pocket.
Yep.
And so like it is a privilege in a lot of ways. So there's other things too that I think could be helpful if therapy is not accessible. And if kids, especially as they get into teen years and stuff, it might not be cool to talk to like their parents and grown-ups they live with. And so if there are other people that they are open to talking to, an older sibling, cousin, aunt, uncle, grandparent, family friend, I hear that so often. I heard it with a new kid today. They were like, oh, like, well, so-and-so's therapist, she does art therapy. And I was like, oh, who's so-and-so? And it was like the mom's best friend. But it was like a family friend. Like the child was close with that person. And so, it could be somebody like that, or a neighbor or somebody.
So even these ones that we're saying, therapy could be good.
Yeah. I understand it might not be accessible.
Right. These are like situations. We are assuming that you are able to seek out therapy.
Yeah.
We also will do a whole episode on if you cannot seek out therapy, if it's not working out, what are tips that you can implement as the parent at home. But in this situation, we're really going based on that.
Can we go to
the family who can
afford
seek
it?
out
There's
therapy.
Somebody that has availability.
Yeah. All right. Next scenario.
Okay.
My son is 15.
Okay.
He used to be so sweet, so caring. He always spent time with us. We went out on the weekends together. It was lots of fun. Now, every time we try to make him do something with our family, he grumbles at us. He hardly leaves his bedroom. He's always playing his video games, playing on his phone.
Okay.
He I mean, he still talks to his friends, but he doesn't talk to us anymore. And we've just like completely lost our outgoing, bubbly boy. How do we get him back? What do we do?
Okay. This is a tough one. I could see it going either way. Kind of sounds like he's a typical teenage boy, right?
Mm-hmm.
If he's socializing with his friends and he's just more interested in video games, it's natural for teenagers. They're individuating. So they're spending more time in their room or more time with their friends than they are with their family. Like, it's natural. You actually want that, as hard as it is. You want that. You want them to be growing more independent, and the family, the primary support or primary social group goes from the family into friends as you enter school. If you're going to school, we just talked about that a few weeks ago, traditional school, or, talking to friends. So yeah, I mean, the line of like, we lost our bubbly, bright, whatever that was, son. If it's just because he's grumbling because he doesn't want to go to like family functions, that would be different than if he's like no longer bright and bubbly.
Right. Is he still bubbly at school with his social group, with the people he wants to be with?
Yeah.
And I think that's something that's definitely hard for us as parents to differentiate, because we might see this change in them at home, but they really are kind of naturally going through that.
Yeah.
I mean, sullen teenager phase is real.
Right.
And we said any and all humans could benefit from therapy, but that doesn't mean they necessarily need it. That's kind of just a natural thing that we're going to go through.
Yeah. Might be hard. Maybe the parents benefit from things.
Yes. Yes, absolutely.
It's hard. I mean, they're getting ready. They're going off to college, or they're starting high school. This example, they'd be in high school. But yeah, we're going to do a whole episode on what's called soiling the nest.
I'm excited for that one.
I'm pumped for that one. So that's coming. TBD. Yep.
All right. Next scenario.
Okay.
I have 2 children. They're 5 and 9.
Uh-huh.
Their mother and I recently divorced.
Okay.
Now she's incarcerated on drug charges. They seem fine. They haven't once asked about her. They have no personality changes, no changes at school. What do we do? Do they need to go to therapy? Because they're fine.
Yeah. Again, showing my bias as a trauma therapist, I would say yes. I would say you should at least a few. And that's kind of how a few sessions. That's kind of how I frame it, is like, give me 3. Give me 3 sessions. Give me 5 sessions, especially it might be like to the reluctant child. I'm like, just give me 5 sessions and you don't have to come back. Because something like that is going to have an impact on kids. And it might not be now, but it might down the road. And that doesn't mean that we're going to like prevent anything from happening. It's certainly going to depend on like the engagement. If a kid does not want to be there, then no matter how much it could be beneficial, they're not going to.
It's not going to be beneficial.
They're not going to benefit from it. Same for an adult, teenager, whomever. But yeah, I think it would be worth like talking to your kids and saying like, hey, this is an option. And I think that this would be helpful, and kind of explaining it in like their terms of like, this is a place you can go and kind of talk about your feelings, and you might do art, you might play. And that's kind of what I tried to say on the first session too. Of like, yeah, we can play, we can do art. I have books about feelings and all kinds of things.
Okay, so for these children that are 5 and 9, they're best buds, they're sisters, right? Best friends, refuse to go to therapy without each other. So what do we do? Can they go to therapy together? Do they have to be seen separately? How does that work?
It's the same situation, like with the parents' divorce.
Yep, these children.
Yeah, especially for something like this, I think that they could come together, and that would be beneficial because they're kind of processing the same thing, right? Parents divorced, now mom's gone. Like they might not know where she is,
right?
Or they might know, and then that's kind of something to process. The 9-year-old might know, the 5-year-old might not understand. However, if they're refusing to go by themselves, that might be something that I'm concerned about. Are they refusing? But again, the wider question, are you refusing to go to school? Are you refusing, like, no, now I don't want to go to my own classroom because I want to be with my sister or my sibling all the time? So those are things that I ask, like, is it affecting your wider life?
Okay. So
they could benefit from therapy.
Maybe the key here was that they were dependent on each other.
Yeah.
And so no, they haven't really changed, but they're having a really hard time being away from each other. Maybe that's what it is. That's the kind of buzz thing that thinks, okay, maybe we do need to get some counseling.
Yep.
All right. I'm very curious your take on this next one.
Okay.
All right. So my child is 8.
Okay.
We haven't seen any changes at home. same kiddo we've always known. But his teachers have reached out to me and said his grades are slipping. He's not paying attention in class. He fell asleep in class twice last week. But it doesn't, I mean, he's not acting any different. He's certainly not acting any different at home. Generally, he's still social with his friends and everything. How do I handle it?
That's interesting. Yeah. I think it would be worth investigating. And so potentially counseling and or like possible, I mean, that's like, this is very simplistic, like very, very simplistic, like what the answer I'm about to give, but like potentially an evaluation for ADHD that it might just be showing up more in the classroom of like inattention and things like that. But it could be a lot of things. And that's why I lean more towards testing in this situation, because it could be that they're gifted and so they're bored in school. And so that's why they're daydreaming, because they already know the material. They're falling asleep because they're bored. So I would lean more towards testing and seeing if there's something through school, because I know sometimes school districts you can test for like giftedness, and they might test into like a gifted program if that's available. Then that would be an option. And if not, that might be, again, big privilege, but to get like a private IQ test.
Yeah.
Because it could go one way or the other for sure. It could be like you're bored because you already know all of this.
Right.
Yeah.
I think something that stuck out to me in this one too is that the child's falling asleep in class. And that kind of like leads me to think maybe we need to reach out to the pediatrician too and see like what
medical
why are we not sleeping as well? Like there can be, even like with the bedwetting stuff, there can be biological, physiological like reasons for this.
We want to always rule that out.
So
first.
Keeping in close contact with the pediatrician is important too.
Definitely. Yep.
Absolutely. That was my last scenario.
Ooh,
so do you have any final ending thoughts? When do our kids need therapy? Anything left?
I think it goes back to that golden rule of like, if it's impairing, if it's impacting them, if they come to you and they ask, like I'll have, people like the teenagers will come ask. They ask their parents to go to therapy. If they're asking, I don't think I would ever say no.
What about like if I really feel like if I really feel like my children are needing therapy, but I'm not sure like, is there like a family therapy? Is that a thing that we can do? Like, what if I just want to go with my whole, like me and my kids and my spouse? How does that work?
Yeah, you could definitely do family therapy. There are like family therapists. You can like literally get a degree in like marriage and family therapy. Also, people with my credentials can do that as well. Some people prefer it. Some people specialize in it more than others. I don't do like family therapy in that like the family, quote unquote, would be the client. I work with a lot of kids and teens, so I do family sessions where parents come in or siblings come in or whomever. But yeah, that's definitely an option. That can be a thing that can be, if you're going through a divorce, it could be like we can work on communication. It could be there is going to be a big change or there was a big change, something like that. Or like, hey, like me as the parent, I'm considering fostering. Like maybe that's something that would be helpful to like have a few sessions about and like talk and see how my kids are feeling about it before I foster. But yeah, it could help a lot with communication.
So you said something interesting that to me as a non-therapist piqued my interest. You said that the family would not be the client. So like the
family would be the client. So I don't do family therapy, whereas like somebody comes to me as a family, typically, just like I don't really do couples work where a couple comes and says like, we want couples counseling. I don't do family therapy in that sense. I have family sessions.
So like you are seeing the teenager or the child and then the parents are also attending this session.
Some sessions.
But not necessarily everyone.
All sessions, yeah. Versus, so like the difference in that would be like the focus is the family.
Okay.
So like what, quote unquote, the family is the client as like a system versus like
family dynamics.
Right. Is the quote unquote client. Now for insurance and reimbursement, blah, 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 you have to have an identified patient usually unless you're like out of pocket. So generally it would be like whatever, just like a couple, we're going to put this person from the couple. We're going to put it under their name in the schedule.
But it's still like couples counseling. So what about, if a family is going to family therapy, then presumably we are able to talk about like the parents' relationship or parent to child or dad's job struggles or whatever it is, each one. Whereas if it's your child who's a client and you're doing a family session, we're not going to start talking about mom and dad's relationship issues. Everything has to be related to that child. Is that accurate?
For the most part. I mean, for sure, parents' relationship might be affecting the child, so that might come up. That might be something that then I would refer and say, hey, like, we have couples counselors, like if that's, or like, hey, dad, it's, if you think you'd benefit from counseling, like that's an option for you to have an individual therapist as well. That's a conversation that I have with parents fairly often, if I think it would be helpful.
Okay.
But yeah, it's typically like it's like benefiting the child or whomever the client.
Like maybe you see an adult client who brings their spouse for a session.
Right.
Okay. Awesome.
But it's more like, how can we communicate about this particular issue versus like couples counseling?
All right. So we say we just had someone listen to this podcast and they're like, that scenario sounds really familiar.
Mm-hmm.
I really think my child needs to see somebody.
Okay.
What's their first step?
I always say start with the pediatrician.
Okay.
Especially if you're already there, if you're getting sports physicals, if you're going for their yearly checkup or like whatever, if you're going to go get vaccinations or whatever, and you're there, you might as well mention it to them. Like, hey, I have this concern, or like, hey, this has been coming up. Do you work with any therapists? Are there any therapists you recommend? That's always a good place to start, I think, in my book.
I think that's a good idea because I think a lot of us would go straight to Google and be like, child therapist near me, which might be beneficial.
You can do.
But if you go to your pediatrician that you trust, and they might have a list of, these are the places we work with that would be great for your child.
Right. We know your child.
Right.
We know we've been seeing them for how many years or whatever. Yeah. So I always say there. Also school, you can ask teachers, especially if they bring it up to you, conferences or whatever, of like, hey, we've been seeing these changes in your child at school. Like, okay, great. Like, do you have any recommendations? You know, so they might have a therapist. We talked about, therapy, like school-based.
School counseling.
That might be an option. Or if not, there might be other ones in the neighborhood or the area that they know of or that they work with or whatever. So yeah, the people that are already in like your life and your child's life that know your child. And they might also know a little bit more about like what type of therapy might be helpful or who really specializes in kids. Because like, the kind of general thing is like Psychology Today, which is a great resource. And a lot of therapists use it. But I can put anything I want in my online profile. I can say I specialize in kids. I can say I'm an expert. I work with kids. But a pediatrician or a teacher whom I have shared, students, patients with, is going to know my style, is going to know, do I really work well with kids?
Right. They're going to know who to recommend and who not.
Right.
For sure.
Yeah.
Okay, so starting with trusted adult who knows your children also might have those resources.
And if not, Psychology Today's a good place. And then just like looking for that, like, do they? Does it say that they work with children? At the very least, look for that. Do they have any specialized training in parent and child interaction therapy?
Well, that's a big one.
PCIT. Do they have play therapy training? Are they an art therapist? Not necessarily all of those work with kids, but yeah, looking for like those more specific things too.
Yeah, and trying to go based on like, if it's a younger child, we're definitely going to want that play therapy versus an older child, maybe the cognitive behavioral therapy or whatever would be a better option.
Or different. Yeah,
different. Or, oh, my child thrives in art and not, or music.
Yeah,
music therapy. Yeah, there are animal therapy, like the horses. Yes, that's what I was thinking of. Yes, that's a big one too, and that can,
it's a huge one.
And so that can be really based on your child's
And if you, a lot of these are like, we don't. Some of these scenarios we maybe don't know what's going on, or some are situational or whatever. Like, look for that too. Is it somebody that specializes in anxiety? Is it somebody that specializes in like difficulties at school? Is it, or like you do know, like you went through a divorce and in the profile it says, I work with a lot of children who have experienced divorce or grief, right? Somebody passed away, and look for grief. Do they work with grief? Do they work with trauma? And like there has been a traumatic event. So like looking for, not only do they work with kids, but also do they work with kids in this capacity?
And you might have to do a lot of calling around, calling the different places. It's not necessarily the most fun, but calling and asking. Do they, like, yeah, they see children. But like I've taken my children to therapists who claim that they worked with children, but have never actually seen a child before. Like,
so they say like I could work with
kids. They're like, I don't have a problem with kids, but like, that doesn't mean you know how to do it. Yeah. So yeah, making sure that they really are working with kids, have that experience, are doing those things. And then you're going to have to, check your insurance, check your copay, check the blah, 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 blah. So
availability.
You're going to have to be probably making a lot of phone calls.
Which I know is frustrating.
Yeah.
But it can be worth it.
And I just don't want anyone to be like, I thought it was one phone call and we're done. You're probably going to be calling so many places.
Yeah, it is.
And so don't just look up one. Don't just get one referral.
Yeah.
Get as many as you
can.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Yeah, and it's always worth the phone call.
Absolutely.
I mean, this might not be like my own best boundaries, but I can be like, quote unquote, not accepting new clients. But if somebody reaches out to me specifically or they call and they say, hey, I read Jenna's profile and I think she'd be a really good fit for this reason, or this is pro tip. This is also a good way where coming from a teacher or a doctor, it's a lot harder for me to say no to a referral source than it is some random, hey, this mom that I didn't talk to, the front desk talked to, said they have a 7-year-old with anxiety. But if I have a doctor who refers me a lot of clients and they say, hey, I have the 7-year-old, I might be more inclined because I want to keep a good relationship with that referral source. Right. And so, to be honest, it may or may not work. Right. But if it might, oh my gosh, the similarity of like, I need an orthopedist. If I call, it might be in 6 months from now. Right. If my doctor sends a referral, I might get in a little sooner.
Absolutely.
So I will let you in on that little secret. Like, we want to keep in good graces with those referral sources.
Absolutely. So. Yeah, because you want the teachers referrals. Who are sending you people, the doctors who are sending you people. Yeah.
Yep.
Because, as you're curing these children and sending them on their way, you need someone else to come in and take up their spot.
Exactly. So, yeah.
All right. So I think that was good. I think we learned a lot.
Okay.
We're going to get our kids some therapy. If you have a particular situation that you're wanting Jenna's professional opinion on, you can find us on Instagram at Teacher and Therapist Pod.
Or you can email us, teacherandtherapistpod@gmail.com.
Please keep in mind that these are not confidential ways to reach out to us.
Not confidential ways. This in no way insinuates a therapeutic relationship.
Nope.
Between the two.
Sure doesn't. You could address it to me and I will give you my opinion. I am not a therapist, so I can help you.
If you have any teaching questions, please address them to me. And I will give you my unprofessional opinion.
Is literally perfect. If you need therapy, email Brigid. If you need teacher questions, contact Jenna. We're good to go. No boundaries crossed here.
For sure. You can reach out to us. I'll probably give you a very general answer because it's
not specific, but maybe we could reach out.
But I might say like, hey, it could be beneficial. Here's Psychology Today.
Yep. Well, and maybe it's just one of these scenarios like, oh, I don't know if my kid needs it or not.
Yeah.
Hey, let's have that.
Hey, here might be some follow-up questions to consider, you know?
Excellent. Love it. Reach out to us. We love to hear from you. Peace out, Bean Sprout. Wait, I think I said that next time. Adios, amigos. There we go. I changed it.